Hi, I'm Jim Masters, CUTV News. Thanks for joining us. You know, most people avoid risk whenever possible, but successful people get where they are because they're willing to take risks when no one else will. One such person who is a real risk taker and who has a clear vision is Michele Nordahl. Michele served as an HR executive with large manufacturing companies for some 30 years, where she decided she needed something different. She needed a change. So she always wanted to have her own business, and she loved HR, but there was something missing. She needed to grow. It just wasn't enough. Today, Michele is the president and CEO of Anderson Forrester, which is a manufacturer of brass orifices for natural gas and LP fittings for fireplaces, stoves, grills, anything that runs off propane or natural gas. Anderson Forrester actually dates back to 1928. Michele and her partner purchased the company back in 2014, and since then it has grown substantially. The company launched a new website, added a brand new innovative product line, re-engaged their customers, drew on the experience of their existing employees to change the energy as well. Michele thinks outside the box, a real go-getter, and she constantly sees opportunities presented for growth, and she seizes them. Her track record of success speaks for itself. Michele Nordahl joins me today on the CUTV News set to share her story, her vision, the exciting things happening at the company, Anderson Forrester, and how her journey might inspire others who want to do big things while making a difference. Michele, welcome to CUTV News. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Jim, for inviting me.
That is quite a story. I mean, you really are a go-getter. You're a risk taker. Tell us about what inspired you in the beginning to do the incredible work that you do, the passion and enthusiasm and thirst for what you do?
I think it all goes back to how I was raised. You know, you never give up on anything, and you don't give up on people. My parents and my grandparents were very active in our community and always trying to help others. My 30 years in HR has really brought a big focus to helping others. And when this opportunity came along, I jumped on it. And the opportunity was given to us, and I went back, talked to several people, including my partner, Roxanne Metzen, and said, let's do this. What do you guys think? It was one of those businesses, it's a diamond in the rough, and it needed a lot of compassion from new owners.
Absolutely.
It needed people to believe in what we made again, because it had been there again like since 1928, but nobody had really taken a big interest in it. So when that opportunity came along and I found the investors to help us out, we jumped on it.
You jumped right on it.
And we have grown in the 3 years that we've owned it so far and really put our name back out there in the market.
That's fantastic. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the company, Anderson Forrester. But first, I want to delve even deeper, go back in time a little bit for you. Tell us a little bit about your career as you were coming up. I mean, you have incredible, you could really write a book because your story is incredible.
Well, went in the Army right out of high school. Instead of going to college, I had the opportunity to play basketball at numerous universities, but chose to go in the military. I needed the discipline. So from there, I went in the Army and Navy, and I played softball. Didn't have too tough of a career, but when I got out of the service, I started working for the Forest Service. I went to Lane Community College, got my forestry degree, but I could never get on permanent. Spotted owl issues during that time, and so you had to work other jobs in the winter, and I was working manufacturing. And I ended up getting hurt playing softball and working with the HR director at the time. The company sold to AFG Industries, very large glass manufacturer, and the current HR director left to become a priest, and the president says, "You're great with people. I'd love to have you in this role." And I'm like, what? I'm going back to be a firefighter. The animals don't talk back.
Right.
So 30 years later, I literally stayed in HR as an executive working for large companies, from transportation, where I worked for USF Dugan, who was sold to Yellow Roadway, fought the largest Teamster campaign since they tried to go after overnight, and we won. Very excited about that. Made a lot of good connections in there, and still to this day have those connections. And then also working for Learjet, who is one of the largest plane manufacturers in the world, owned by Bombardier out of Canada. And really kind of circumvented my career with them moving forward, helping them with a lot of HR issues, but training, union campaigns, And then from there, moving on to other companies when I left there, from Wheatridge, which is another large aerospace manufacturer.
What is it about HR that attracted you? Human resources, dealing with people, you know, in that realm. What is it about it that drew you in initially?
The people.
The people.
I never thought I was a people person, but the more I got into the HR profession, the more I realized they need my help. And being a sports fanatic that I am, I started developing training based on firefighting analogies, sports analogies.
And you did that too,
I did. I was a firefighter with the Forest Service and utilized those skills that I learned in teaching managers and supervisors how to be better, how to communicate effectively. And I said, if I can change one person every day or learn something new from that person, then I've succeeded.
Because you can shout orders, but that doesn't mean people are going to respond. There's a certain way to present things that you need to have done, right?
Correct. Most people will not respond when you yell at them. Matter of fact, as soon as you turn their back, they're going to be talking very poorly about you. So if you communicate effectively, you have compassion, empathy for what is happening, because there is no two situations that are identical. You may have two people that are both late for work or have, you know, personal issues with another employee, but they're never going to be the same. So you have to listen. And then you have to communicate. But what I've chosen in my career as an HR professional is to not just listen, but get them to think outside their comfort zones. What would you do differently if you had to do it over again? You know, instead of yelling at that person, what would you do? How could you make that situation better? And so over the 30 years, I've developed the training, developed the passion for the people, and got them more involved in their own leadership and how to become a better leader, how to become a better employee even.
It sounds as though you've almost developed this program that can be applicable to any company that exists, small, large, medium, almost as if you could even go from business to business and identify some of the issues that they're facing internally and help them through that process, almost as if you are somebody who is a consultant for companies of all different sizes from coast to coast and beyond.
Which is what I've done. You know, I do develop training programs based on that employer's need. You can use a canned program. They're great, they work, but they're not realistic to what's happening in your environment. So I do go into companies. I've done it 25, 30 years and helped small companies, not to the large companies, but done motivational training, you know, succession planning training, leadership development, customer service training, whatever their needs were, I would go in and help them out with that.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see HR departments do? Are there mistakes, are there common threads that you see, like when you have come in to businesses and you've sort of straightened things out for them, identified problems, helped bring people together? Have you seen common issues that have to be always addressed? Is there a common denominator with it all?
There is. What I find mostly is, one, I'm a change agent. I can go into a company and what I see most of the time is they don't listen. Their policies are old school. They haven't changed them in 20 or 30 years. And if you look at their policy manuals or handbooks, they're very outdated. And so you'll find that they're still living by those rules, and society will not allow you to do that. Our communities are based on the traditions of some things that are in that area. You can't base New Jersey and take what happens there into Kansas. You know, the cultures are different. So you have people that come in that have been there 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still living those old cultures. So you have to change them. You have to figure out what works best.
Now, is that hard? Do you sometimes meet some resistance? You know, don't change it if it's not broken, only because they think it's not broken, but it really is?
Yes. I can't say that I've ever been to a place that said, "Oh, yay, let's go. That works perfect." It doesn't work like that. No, but you do find that you still have some of the key management. The reason that, you know, people like myself are brought in is because they're seeing there are issues, and they need a new set of eyes. You know, a fresh kind of look at what's happening. You're still going to get the resistance from what I call the old timers, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but technology has changed, and society has changed in the way we handle problems. And so someone like myself who can come from the outside and see what's going on can help, you know, not force the changes, but communicate the changes effectively and get the buy-in that you need. Because if you don't have the buy-in from your managers, it's not going to work. You can spend all the money in the world. but you have to have that buy-in.
So with all the changes that have happened in society and all the progression with technology and advancements of this nature, what would be a couple of examples of things that are done differently now that maybe were done another way earlier?
The time clock.
The time clock.
You know, companies have that time clock. They have that bell that, you know, the bell rings, everyone goes to a break.
Punch in, punch out, yeah.
Today's environment with the younger generation coming in, they don't need a time clock. They need to say, okay, you've got 5 minutes here or 10 minutes, take it when you get your project done or whenever. They don't need to be, you know, someone watching over them. You have to have trust in your employees to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. But that time clock is so outdated that more and more companies are going away from them, and including even the handbook. They're setting up expectations. So when you come on board, you're not handed this handbook that's 50, 60 pages.
And that's it.
You're handed a sheet with expectations on what your job role is. You know, you're still going to always have the safety and the OSHA and the environmental regulations, but you don't have to have that handbook if people know what the expectations are.
Do you find also companies are allowing for more staff input when it comes to projects and things of that nature? Like before it was just do this, we want to get from point A to point B, and just follow whatever this diagram says or whatever the rule book says. But they're allowing a little more conversation, a little more involvement, team spirit.
I sure hope there is, because you can't just say, go do this anymore. That's not the way the kids are being brought up today. They're saying, think outside the box, come up with ideas. And new types of management have to allow that. If you're still going to be old school, you're not going to grow. And with what I've done, even places I've worked, we've said we've had focus groups. And we brought in, here's what we'd like to do. Let's get some focus groups in here and get their ideas from the employees off the floor. And we've grown so much more by doing that.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about the company itself and this opportunity with all this experience you have and helping others and working with others and the myriad of different hats you've worn in your life and in your career, each threaded so beautifully together to make you the expert and have the skill set that you do today. This company, Anderson Forrester, how did this all develop? They've been around since 1928. How did it end up in you and Roxanne's hands as an opportunity? And when you were presented the opportunity, did you jump on this, or was there a lot of thought about taking it on?
I was working for a company called Westcon Controls in Wichita, Kansas. They are owned by Nova Capital Management. I'd helped out the gentlemen, the groups from Nova on different HR projects for the different companies they owned. And they had bought 5 companies under Westcon in 2011, 2012. And at some point, they're private equity, they're going to sell them. They had asked me to go out and evaluate the facility, Anderson Forrester in Wheatridge, Colorado, and tell us what was wrong with it. I went out there, evaluated it the first time, came back with my, my report, and they said, now go out and evaluate it on this level. So I did, and when I came back, I gave them my proposal and said, if I had the money you wanted for it, I would buy it. And Jan Kermensky, who runs Nova Capital Management at the time, said, well, why don't we sell it to you? That's when the Nordahl came out of me, and I said some things, and I said, you know what I make? And I said, I can't afford this. And I said, why would you sell this to me? And he goes, because you're the only one on our management team that's never lied to us. Wow. We will help you with this. We will finance it for you.
We will do what we can.
You come up with X amount. And so I was like, wow, what an opportunity, because it really was a diamond in the rough. So I went home, and Roxanne and I talked about it, and we were both very happy in our roles that we had, and I loved HR, but I always needed something more. And I said, we don't have this kind of cash, but let's get investors. So we talked to quite a few people and ended up with some family members and some really good friends of ours investing, and jumped on it. Because I said, it's going to go to somebody else if we don't. And we can take this. There's so much low-hanging fruit that I've already seen just being out there.
Right, right.
We can grow this, and we can really make a difference, and not in just the gas and propane industry, but with our employees and with the community that we're in.
Yeah, that's the HR person thinking and talking.
It was.
Really. So you saw an opportunity to take a company that has a great, prideful tradition, makes great products, to the next level. When you were first looking at the company as an opportunity, What was the state of the company? Were they growing? Were they going down? Were they plateauing? What was the situation?
They'd plateaued.
Yeah.
We have a lady that had been there for 30 years who pretty much ran the production area, but no new growth. They were stagnant. The general manager really wasn't, I call it, hooked into what was going on. So we knew, based on the 2 weeks that I'd spent out there, and I know their financials because I was on our board and we talked about all the companies and I knew where their financials were and what needed to happen, that this wasn't a huge, huge risk other than our financials and my life and Rox's life. I also saw it was an investment into the future of our employees because I knew we could grow it. I had no doubt in my mind with the knowledge and background, and the people that I still kept in touch with, the people from Nova, are extremely helpful to this day. If I have a question, they're like, let us help you.
That's fantastic. So you kept that communication intact.
Yes, very much.
Which is very important. Communication, networking, keeping good relationships, as an HR person you know this too, within the company, but even outside the company, if you are in a position like you and Roxanne to have this company as you do, keeping lines of communication open is an essential ingredient to all of this, right?
It's the biggest thing. You know, if you're not servicing that customer that calls in, somebody else will. Our competition is China. And we're never going to be as cheap from a product line as China, but we have a better product and a much faster on-time delivery. But if you don't communicate with them, you're going to lose them. And that was the biggest thing we did is we started calling every customer that hadn't been with us for years and bringing those customers, and I call it back into the fold of the family of Anderson and Forrester. And we grew the first year $250,000, which is a miracle in itself to be able to do that. But we've picked up some very huge customers this last 2 years that we were able to add new equipment into the fold of the family.
Now, when you look back and you say, okay, there's this roster of all these people who have been customers of the company over the years, but not in recent years. Now they are, but when you took over, they hadn't been in a while. Did they all have the same reasons why? Were they just not followed up with, or was there a reason why they sort of stopped or dropped off the radar? About
90% of them said the same thing. No one ever called them back. And that was our general manager at the time that just had that non-lackluster, I'm fine where we're at attitude.
And if they need something, they'll call us.
Exactly. And that's not the way I work, including my entire team. You know, we have a salesperson in Oregon that handles all of our internet sales, does cold calling. We have a director of marketing that handles all of our marketing, our new website. We have a VP of sales in Kansas that, he goes to a lot of the shows and makes sure that the people know who we are. And then we have our staff at the shop that when that phone rings, it doesn't go to voicemail. And our phones ring 24/7 because we sell our product all around the world. So Monday through Sunday, 24/7, somebody's answering that phone. And if not, they'll call you back within 4 to 5 hours.
When we were preparing for this interview, Michele was telling me about this incredible story of a woman up in Alaska whose, I think, stove or oven just went out, and there was this emergency call that came in, and you took it, and you guys helped her with the process. Tell us about that. That's incredible. A lot of people wouldn't answer the phone or respond, or it passed hours and things.
Correct. Yeah, this lady called in, and she was in her, based on talking to her, and if I remember right, in her 80s, lived alone just outside of Seward, Alaska, out in the outback, as she called. And I asked her, "Are you from Australia?" And she goes, "No, I'm from Alaska." And her only heating source had gone out. The orifice had crashed, is basically what she had said. And it was dirty and old, and it was from a 1930s stove. So I asked her what she really needed, and she says, "I don't know where to get this." And I said, "Well, send me the part overnight." Gave her our UPS number. She overnighted it to us, and we had that part in stock. So I actually sent her 2 parts back, overnighted.
That's incredible.
And this lady has done nothing but say thank you so much, because without that heat, she would have froze.
Yeah.
And it's in the outbacks and in the far woods of Alaska where there really isn't anything but propane.
Right.
And so we took care of her, and she has done everything she can to help build our business.
Well, that's an example, a testament to your character and to the way your company operates, because a lot of people, like I was saying, would never have even picked up the phone. They would never have even taken the time to understand the woman's situation, which actually in that situation could have been a life-saving situation for you, I know you won't say that, but I could say that sounds like that was potentially what that was. And they just wouldn't go that extra mile. But that's not who you are. No matter where you're planted, that is who you are. You always go the extra mile, and that makes a huge difference. I
try to. I think taking care of your customers not just builds the relationship, but it does something different to me. Because
right.
if I can go back the way I was raised, you know, give a bale of hay to the neighbor doesn't have any, take care of his horses or his cows, that's what we did. And I will do the same thing in our business today. Is if it means I have to fly to Alaska and hand deliver an orifice, I will do it. It costs me money, but guess what? It may have saved a life.
Absolutely. And that's a value system that I think you were born with, you were raised with, like you say. It's something that you continue to develop over time. And that makes a world of difference because a lot of people today aren't necessarily operating in that same vein.
True statement, very true. I was raised to take care of your neighbor. And we grew up in a small town, Florence, Oregon, where, you know, when you're out haying, the neighbors are there helping you. And when they're ready to hay, you go help them. And that's just how we grew up.
Yes. Now let's talk a little bit more about the company and some of the products that you offer. People watching right now are saying, okay, what is, I'm trying to visualize what it is that your product line is and that you create that helps people.
What we manufacture are brass orifices. Anything that runs off natural gas or propane has to have some type of orifice for the gas flow and to be regulated. You'll have different size holes, different size orifices based on your product, from a Coleman stove to, you know, a Travis Industry fireplace, you know, to a Solaronics, you know, kitchen. It just varies on where it can be. We have thousands of different orifices and thousands of different customers all over the world. So we make that. We make the tooling, the kitting, the fittings for them, and everything is made in Colorado. Now we do outsource some of our product that we buy from our vendor, and they're the GB 3020 brooches. We have to buy them from Switzerland because we can't make them, but they're the size of your hair.
Really?
They're very small, and they break very easily. But we have people that, this last year at the Hearth and Patio show in Atlanta, a guy brought a kit to us. He'd had it for 25 years.
Wow.
We gave him a brand new one.
Yeah. It's time to update.
It's time to update. But we have those customers that come to us and say, man, my dad had this, and I love it. How do I get another one? I'm like, here you go. It's all yours. And so there's so many things that are parts that we make that are specialty to certain customers too that we don't sell to the general public. But we have a website and a catalog that you can buy directly from us.
We have it here, yeah.
Yes.
This is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the catalog we put out 2 years ago. It's in color and it's also in black and white, but it's also on our website. It has all the parts today that we manufacture for the general public.
This catalog has just everything you can think of, including the kitchen sink?
It does.
Almost, right?
Pretty much. We came out with this a couple years ago because our customers were saying, we really want to see what your product is. So we updated our website and put this catalog out, and it literally has every part that we sell, from our brooches to our drill kits,
Look at it all. Yeah.
to the different size orifices, from a pilot orifice. Everything we have, including what we came out with 2 years ago, was the retractable orifice Reamer cleaner.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that is something our customers were asking for, so we designed and developed it.
So that's this here.
That's this right here, and it
what does
measures
that do?
It cleans out the orifice. So you can put it, the pilot comes out, it's got a tip on it that you can take and put to the size you need to lock it in and then clean out your orifice. So you don't have to buy a new orifice.
Really?
So it's very handy. We call it for the handyman.
Yeah.
They can carry it in their pocket, and instead of having different size brooches to clean it out, they have one.
So people can order from this catalog, and do they order online? Is it mail? How does it all work?
They can call us directly, or they can go online. There's a phone number on there for our salesperson, Shelley Circle. She'll take the order and then put it in, and then we can ship it out the next day.
Now, all these intricate parts that we see here in this catalog, you must have a major design team, engineers and creators. How does this all come to be?
A lot of this was already in place when we bought the company. We've added orifices to it and the fittings and some of the tooling, but no, it's myself, my general manager, Roxanne, and then we have an engineer in Wichita that we utilize that we don't need that big team. I don't need the overhead because I do have the connections and the background.
Right.
And I like the creativity that we can do. Now, our customers are very demanding.
Yeah.
They want it very specific, and a lot of times they'll send us their designs, and then we have to kind of fit it into what we can do on our machines and kind of, I call it reverse engineer it.
Absolutely.
To be able to design it for them.
So again, some more examples of who your customers would be that would do business with Anderson Forrester?
Travis Industries, they're a fireplace.
Right.
We have Middleby, which is a cooking, Solaronics, XLT, which is, I like it because they make cooking stoves. They're in Wichita, so it's kind of nice to have that.
And are these for the commercial industry, or are these in people's homes?
They're in people's homes.
So the consumer as well.
Correct. Travis Industries is probably one of the largest fireplace manufacturers in the world, and they're up in Washington. Visited them. They have some of the most beautiful fireplaces, but they order quite a bit from us. Solaronics is not a local company, but they are also very big. And then you get the small guy, Fairbanks Equipment. You get the Johnstone Supplies, who are all over the world. We have customers East Coast, West Coast, China, Asia.
You also mentioned Coleman, which a lot of people know that name.
Yeah, we don't have an account with Coleman yet, but I'm going to get them sooner or later. I'm pretty positive about that.
She's coming for you, Coleman. She's really good. So are you always looking for new clients, new companies to work the magic on?
You bet. I'm so far from being done growing. I think we could take the market away from China. I do need a bigger facility, so we are looking at that. I'll definitely have to buy more equipment and love the fact I know I have to hire more employees, which is wonderful. But no, we are so far from done growing. You know, I'd love to be a $50, $60 million company, you know, in 5 to 6 years.
Absolutely.
But you can't grow so big that you forget about the little guy. And I will never forget about the mom and pop, the lady from Alaska that needs that one orifice. We're always going to be there to take care of those people that need us.
So that still exists today. If somebody needs something, like you said, it's a 24/7 situation. The phone, there's always somebody answering the phone, and there's always somebody helping the customer.
And it will always stay that way.
So you will assure that it's always, that is a great thing for the existing customers and potential new customers who may do business with Anderson and Forrester as well. And again, that's part of your value system. So what do you see as the future of the company? Like, you must have a million things that are spinning around in your head as far as things you'd like to do with the company, to grow the company, to expand the company, and to maintain the excellence that you already have.
I do. I would love to grow into the RV outdoor power equipment market, even into the larger gas. You know, today we only build up to 6 inches. You know, when you get into the big oil industries, you know, you're making much larger cams, which today we're not set up to do. But that doesn't mean down the road we can't. But I do believe the RV industry is huge for us. You know, you've got forklifts that run off of propane. You now have the buses and trains that are running off of natural gas and propane. That's a big thing. We definitely can get our foot in that door. And the word is getting your foot in the door.
Right, exactly.
I know once I get my foot in the door, I can sell it. I'm not a salesperson, but I love our product enough, I believe in it, that it could be beneficial and cost effective for every company out there.
Let's talk about, too, with all of that, your entrepreneurial spirit. You're obviously a real entrepreneur to be able to do all the wonderful things that you've done. So if somebody's watching right now and they are an entrepreneur just starting out, what tips or advice could you give them to be able to get to levels like you are at right now?
Understand the business at least 10 to 15% before you buy it. Look at the books, make sure your financials are where they need to be, because if you're going to put a lot of cash in immediately, your cash flow coming out is going to be real high, and you're going to go broke. Know your employees. The intellectual knowledge that your employees has is probably one of the most valuable. Know your equipment. Make sure it's not from World War II. You're going to have to buy new equipment, which we have had to do because we had the World War II equipment, but I knew that going into it. But be willing to take that chance. And I always tell people, you're not going to get rich. This isn't, you know, when you first start off, you're not going to get rich, but you're going to have a wonderful life. You're going to meet new people, and you're going to learn something about business you never knew before. And keep your connections. Your connections are what's going to make you successful.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see entrepreneurs making, you know, on a daily basis? Is it that they do certain things to get rich quick? They're looking for that result?
I think
when
so.
there's a lot of time and effort and toil and years sometimes it takes to get to certain levels.
I do believe so. I see more and more, people going, oh, I'm going to go out and buy my own business. I said, what's the financials look like? Well, I don't know. They make money. And I said, do they? And so people will buy the business, and then they'll be putting, $60, $70, $70, $80, $90,000 of their own money right away into it, and they have no cash flow. They may have receivables out there, but their receivables are less than their payables. And so they're putting their own money into it, which is not a successful business.
It. Yeah,
and then they first go in and they buy all this new equipment and start, as I say, redesigning the workplace. And you can't do that. You may have ideas of what you want to do, but you have to do them at the right time and get your input from your employees, because they're the ones that are there.
Step by step.
Step by step. And baby steps.
Yeah,
baby steps. We took 10 steps forward, 5 steps back, and you learn from those.
And be open to advice, open to suggestion. Sure. Talk with people who are experts, who've been there, who've done it, experts like yourself.
That's why I stay in touch with Nova. I stay in touch with the people I've worked with that are presidents or CEOs at other companies. I still have those great relationships. I've called the people at Bombardier in Montreal and said, how do I do this? Yeah. And they're like, Michelle, you've got the right idea. Just take this path instead. You'll get the end result. And so I kept those connections, because I'm not an expert in everything. I understand our business. I'm learning new things about it every day, but you have to rely on the people that have been in this business, like Jan from Nova, who I will call and say, all right, I have a dilemma. What do you think? This customer wants to do this, or this corporation wants us to handle this, and they want this discount. And you have to run those ideas off those people. You can't know everything.
Right, absolutely. And one of the big things, too, is to have a team of people around you who are supportive, and you all support each other and create this sort of symbiotic relationship where everybody is, all the pieces of the puzzle are fitting together perfectly, and there's this support system that carries the company through, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people is essential.
It is. Our investors are a good example of that. We have farmers, we have accountants, we have people that have been in their other industries outside of this, but they know people and they have good skills. So we meet, go through the numbers, and I'm like, here's my ideas. What are your guys' ideas? And we've implemented ideas from our investors who don't know anything about manufacturing, but they understand people, and they understand, does this customer need this, or does this customer need that? Can we design it? And we do it. We invest in our future, and sometimes you're going, slapping yourself on the head going, oh, why did I do that? But you learn from it. And then the customer will say, hey, I need this. And like, oh, we just came up with that. And so it's, it's not a perfect world, but you have to be able to rely on others with their ideas as well and run with them. Take that chance.
Do you ever get feedback and or suggestions from the clients, from the customers themselves too?
All the time. Yeah, and that's how we build our relationships with them, because they'll say, can you build this? And it is something we've never even looked at. And we'll put it on, program and master cam and go, can we do this on our machine? And I'll get a hold of an engineer and say, can you design this for us? And at the end of, a couple days, we've got the part ready to build. And I'll call the customer and say, we can do this. And they're like, really? Nobody else could? I won't give up. If we can't do it, we can't do it. But I will do everything I can within our machine's capacity and our technical ability to be able to help solve a problem for a customer.
What do you think, as well, are some of the things about Anderson Forrester that set you apart from others out there? Obviously you, Roxanne, the team of people, but are there other things either about the products or just about your company values, your mission, your vision that makes you stand out from competition that's out there?
I think everybody wants to take care of their customer. We take care of our customer. There isn't a customer that'll call and say, I couldn't get a hold of you. I left a message. You never called back. That does not happen. They can email us, and I'm getting emails while I'm sitting here.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
And we'll take care of them. But I think what really sets us apart is our customer service and our on-time delivery and our quality. We don't get returns. And if we did get a return, it's usually because I put the part number down wrong, wrote it down wrong, and drilled it wrong, or the customer, it was their part number and they ordered it wrong.
Right.
It's not because it didn't work. It's very minute, either my fault, because like I said, I take orders and I'll write them down wrong. And
you just take care of it.
Yeah, and we take care of the customer. And they get their parts within 24 hours.
We were talking about entrepreneurs possibly watching right now as well. What about leadership? Obviously, you're a leader, CEO of a company. You've done a lot of things in your life and in your careers we've talked about, outlined during the interview. The role of a leader, or what we think of the boss or the leader, has completely changed. It's evolved in a growth way, in a positive way, right? Tell us about your definition of what a good, effective leader is and how you've seen it change.
Well, I've definitely seen it change in 30 years being in HR. To me, a leader is someone who listens. Someone who doesn't demand something get done. Is somebody who says, hey guys, here's an idea. Yes, we have to get it done, but I want your thoughts. I want your input. And I'm right here for you. Not someone who just goes behind their desk, shuts their door, and says, just go do it. That's not a leader. I've always said when I teach leadership transformation is you have to be there. Not just physically, but mentally. You have to be open to change, because in society today, change is everything. Mm-hmm. You can't do things today the way you did them 20 years ago. Technology has changed. People have changed. But you have to be there for that person and for that business. I've worked with some great leaders, and I've worked with some really bad ones. And when I find somebody that is not a good leader, it's because they were thrown into the role without any ability to be able to fulfill and succeed in that role. But they were a good technician, or they might have been a good team lead, and now you've made them, you know, director of operations, or in a role they're just not capable of fulfilling.
Which, again, does that take time to decipher and figure out?
It does. You can't just say, oh, that guy looks great, or that gal would be perfect in that role.
Born leader, not necessarily.
No. I mean, I myself, I do think I'm a good leader, but I was brought up to think for myself. My folks, my grandparents were always there to support me. I had that support network. A lot of people don't, so they just go out there and they just jump on the bandwagon. I'm going to be that team leader today, and they have no idea how to communicate, how to even look at somebody. They'll be talking, but they'll be staring off into space, and they're not connecting. And that's not a good leader. Yeah. But it takes time to be able to train, develop, coach. You know, you can have, the Chicago Bulls were a great basketball team. They had A players, but not every one of them was an A player. You know, yes, Michael Jordan was an A player, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, you know, they were all A players, but they had to have that supporting cast to help them. And same thing in leadership. You have to have the supporting cast. You can't do it on your own. There's no general out there that goes out and says, oh, I can go out and wipe out this country by myself. He's got the supporting cast. Exactly. And he has to be able to coach them and lead them. And that's what a good leader is, someone who can do that. And strategizing with all of the people involved, too, is essential. Not just focusing on the end game, on the win, but the actions it takes day to day, moment by moment, to get to those points, and sort of mapping it out, strategizing. I know sometimes we're living in a culture where people don't want to take time to do that. They just want to go from point A to B quickly, and it's about speed and it being first. But sometimes that's not always the most effective or longest lasting for a company or for an individual, right? Correct. The end result is, yes, you want to get to here, but how you get there is not quick. And if you take that quick path, you're going to run into a lot of bumps along the way, and you'll fail at the very end. Eli Goldratt had a great training class, drum buffer rope. You know, you're only as good as the end person. And I've been through his training, learned a lot from it, but you can still take and learn from the people that have done all these training classes. And at the end of the day, you can't rush. You have to be able to be patient and map out your strategy to get to the end result. And it's not a quick fix. There's nothing that is a quick fix. Yes, you can plug the hole, and it's kind of like I said in firefighting. You can dig the fire line around the fire so it doesn't spread, but the problem is you still have these little spot fires. It's the same thing with people and in leadership. You can draw the line around the bad apples, but if you don't take care of that bad apple and have a strategy how to get them out of those situations, then that bad apple is going to spread to the other ones.
Absolutely.
And so it just, you have to have the right strategy and plan in place, and it's not a quick fix.
So over the last 30 years in human resources, you've designed and presented numerous training projects and topics for companies. Tell us a little bit about how that works and some of the things you've done.
One of the biggest programs that I really feel very successful in was called Leadership Transformation. And it was taking your team leads, potential team leads, supervisors, managers, directors, and taking them to the next level of their career. And it dealt with communication, you know, and communication is not just about how you speak, it's about how you listen and how the eye contact and being there. It's about change. There isn't anything in leadership that doesn't change. Again, like I said earlier, there are no two situations that are the same because personalities aren't the same. So that's what leadership transformation is, a 12-step process, as I call it. It takes 12 weeks to do it. We do 4 hours a week because anything more than that, nobody is going to understand or want to be in. But part of what I've done in that is put situations in place where they role play. Because I can sit and talk all day, and most coaches can. That's what we do. But if you don't get the people involved in the training and being a part of it, they're just going to take notes, throw the notes away. So I get them involved in doing role play. And we talk about companies like Disney that are huge, that are very successful. How can we emulate their success into our business? You can't just say, okay, I'm going to bring Disney in here.
Not quite,
but
right.
Here's our personalities, here's what we build. Now emulate the positives that you've taken from there and into our workplace. And then I do customer service training, because if you don't have the right customer service, and it's not just the customer calling, your customer may be the guy out on the production floor or the guy in IT that needs something from you, and if you don't communicate back to them in a designated amount of time, you're going to lose them. And you're going to lose the relationship that you have built within the departments. So it's not always the outside, it's also internal communication.
How important is trust in all of this and establishing trust? How do you go about establishing trust? And it's something I know that has to be done right at the outset, right? It
has to be done right in the beginning, because if they don't trust you, it's just like when I come into a plant as a new HR person. They're like, oh great, we got a new HR person. Well, you have to be out there. You have to be listening and developing that rapport and the relationship with them. You can't just sit behind a desk, which I don't sit behind a desk. I think if I sat behind a desk, I would lose all feeling in my legs. So I get out there on the floor and talk to them, find out what's going on, building that trust. They may not always like what I tell them, but I'm never going to lie to them.
Right.
And that is building that trust factor. And in any manager, you can't just go out there and avoid them. You have to be out there for them, dealing with the situation. Avoiding it is not making you a good manager, and it's not building that trust factor. So
that's very important too. Also, defining guidelines, I know, is a part of your program too. Tell us a little bit about the importance of defining guidelines and what that actually means, how people can apply that.
I think guidelines and expectations are huge. Like I said earlier again, I don't believe always in having a handbook that's 40, 50 pages. I set up guidelines. Here's how things need to be done. Here's, you know, if someone calls them a rule, I call them an expectation. Rules can be broken, expectations just aren't met. And there is a big difference in how people perceive them. So if I set the guidelines and I set the expectations up and we communicate them effectively, beginning, middle, and end. You can't just say it one time. You've got to continually communicate those to the employees. You will have a happier workforce and a much better workforce than someone that's demanding and doesn't tell them what needs to happen.
So what do you feel is the actual role then of a coach, as we're talking about all these different things, defining guidelines and establishing trusts and communication? The role of a coach is to come in and to sort of identify these things and then show people how to implement them?
I think the role of a coach is much more than that. I think the role of the coach is also the guidance person. You know, it's as some people have called me, that coach. You're the mother, you're the grandmother, you're the preacher, you know, you're the bartender, the psychologist. That role is much more defined in today's environment It's not just someone that goes out there and says, hey, this is how you do the plays. Right. This is how you build the product.
Right.
The role of the coach is continually teaching, continually communicating, and being there for those individuals. And it's not yelling and screaming. It's, okay, we did this wrong, let's figure out what we need to do better. You have to guide them. You have to educate. You know, a coach is always there, where there's some managers who are not always there. You know, I've always said, my phone rings 24/7, even when I was strictly just doing HR. I'd be on vacation with my son and my dad up in the mountains. My phone would ring and my son would say, Mom, you're on vacation. I said, I'm never on vacation, son, because I have employees who need me, whether it's just to talk for 5 minutes that they have a problem. But that's the role of a coach, is someone who is always there and helping these people grow.
That's what it's all about, because then it all does result in the bottom line, too. If people are happy and they feel they're invested in a company and the company appreciates their input and the hard work and toil, then everybody wins, right?
That is correct. And I always say a happy workforce just makes your bottom line so much better.
Now, I would imagine, too, with Anderson or Forrester, that there are people who probably have been with the company for a while who, when you stepped in, you and Roxanne stepped in, they're like, wow, I love this new vision, I like this new enthusiasm, this new energy. You're taking us now to levels we never dreamed of ever reaching.
We did. We had 2 of our employees who'd been there, one 28 years, who's been there now 30 years, and another lady who'd been there over 30 years. And when I came in, I said, I'm not going to change anything, guys. You know, I can't step in day one and make changes because I don't know what's good and what's bad. So let's evaluate everything together. And one of the first things we did is I said, there's no time clock. You guys know what time to come in, get the jobs done. We can go home early, or you stay later to get the jobs done. They love that. They love the fact I was out on the floor. I wanted to understand the business more. I wasn't sitting in my office with my door closed watching TV. I literally went out and built kits. You know, I ran the machines, got my hands dirty.
Learn all aspects of it all.
I did. And then we decided, I said, okay, what do you guys think if I buy a new CNC? You know, Rox and I and our investors had talked about it, and we knew we needed it.
And the CNC is a...
It's a pneumatic machine that builds our parts.
Okay.
We had some very old machines that one hadn't ran in probably 8, 9 years. And so it was just sitting there wasting money. And we were outsourcing, and I said, let's bring this back in-house where you guys benefit from it. And they're all like, we get new machines? I said, yeah. So we've spent about $500,000 in the last couple of years on new machines. Not just to increase our profitability and our ability to add more parts, but also to help our employees so they're not doing everything by hand. We were lasering, you know, or weren't lasering parts, we were actually hand stamping them, where you put the part in a machine, hit a button, and it stamped it. Now we put them in a laser where you can put 100 parts at a time in. So it saves not only on the body, but also, you know, the mental capacity of our employees being able to do it easier
while
and
still
better.
Maintaining efficiency and getting the product
much better
out.
Efficiency even.
But still, sometimes, I guess, depending on what the product is, there are some that still require the human touch, right? Tell us about that.
With our parts, there's a lot that still require that human touch, because we have drills that are the size of a hair. And you can't put those on a machine. You have to literally do those, you know, drill the holes in the parts by hand. When the parts are parts are $3 a piece of that, but the drill bit itself is $25. I don't touch it. We have people, Barb, our general manager, she's the only one that does these because she gets it.
And they must have extreme patience, too.
You do. When you're doing 10,000 parts at a time, you know, it takes a couple days to do them. You definitely want somebody who has the patience, but there are still a lot of our parts that you have to do by hand. There isn't any way to automate it, nor would I want to. It still gives us that personal touch from Anderson Forrester.
Right, absolutely. So if you were to look back from when you and Roxanne first took on this company and what the company is now, how would you summarize what you are now versus what you came into?
I think today we're more customer friendly. I think we bring a bit of urgency, a sense of urgency to get the part out the right way. I don't want anything half done, or if it's off-centered, sent out. I want it done right. I want our customers to be happy. Not that that was ever a problem in the past, but there was no sense of urgency. There was no customer service. And you know, our customers tell us that today. It's like, wow, you guys really answer your phones on the weekends. Yes, we do. That's what Shelley does,
Yeah.
you know, and she's very good with our customers. We have that personable appeal to them now. We're, as I say, we're there for them where we weren't before.
I know you're always innovating and thinking of different products and new product lines and different components and parts as time goes on.
Correct. I don't think my brain ever stops. You know, I look and I talk to customers all the time. What can we do for you? What are you having made today? Well, we wanted to try to develop this, which we're now working with a name brand manufacturer that we just took on that says, here's what we want to build. Can you guys build it? Can you help design it? And I said, you bet. They sent us the product, kind of what they wanted. We designed it in a couple days, sent it back, and they're like, you're our new customer, you know, our new vendor, which, you know, could be $1 million customer for us. But it took me 2 years to get them to trust us, and I call it badgering the right way. Getting them to trust us.
Yes,
They'd buy a part here,
important.
a part there, but when I told them, we can develop this for you, we can be, you know, a partner with you versus just a vendor, they believed in that.
See, that's a great way to approach it too. We can partner because that means that you also believe in the vision of what their company is and what the client is trying to do on a day-to-day basis as well with whatever products or whatever services they provide. So let us partner with you versus just ship it to you, tell you what to do. And I think that's visionary.
It's the way I looked at things, because everywhere I've worked, we've been a partner. Whether we were building, you know, Learjets, we were a partner with that customer. We were designing it based on their needs. You know, where Dugan, USF Dugan, we were a partner with them because we were delivering their freight. We don't make a product. We make a part for a product. So I would rather be their partner than a vendor. A vendor just, whatever you need,
It's just turnkey.
A partner's like, let me help you design it. Let me help your future. Because when I'm helping you, you're helping us. And so I truly believe in partnerships in any type of industry.
So I hear that you got to fly in a Learjet. What was that like?
It was great. The first time I flew in one, it was a test flight for one of the Koch brothers planes. And I had a head cold. And so we're up there, and we flew to Denver, and then we flew to Kansas City and back, and I'm like, I'm hearing something's leaking. And they're like, well, they couldn't hear anything.
Really?
Well, it's because my ears were plugged, and so I could hear things different, and one of the windows wasn't sealed right. So I was like, okay, can I just get off the plane? I don't feel very good now.
Right, exactly.
But we've taken, when I flew to West Virginia to do some campaigning, when the Teamsters were trying to unionize us, I was able to fly on them, and then to Montreal, we'd fly, you know, versus commercial if it was cheaper, and we had a flight going up there when I'd go up for meetings. So, you know, flying in a Learjet is an opportunity of a lifetime, because it's one of the most beautiful planes ever built for the private industry, and I'm very proud to say I worked there. So it's a great opportunity for me.
Isn't it really incredible?
Yes, very much.
And you've had a lot of these opportunities come your way, and it's amazing. So for your future of the company, but also for Michele's future, a lot of people, when I ask that question, the answer is, well, you know what I'd really like to do, Jim? I wish I can clone myself. What would you say?
I'd probably say the same thing. I wish there was more of me, but I try to make time for everybody. My family is probably one of the most important things to me. I have a son that's graduated from college in December. And
congratulations.
Thank you. It's been great, because he's a good kid, and maybe someday he'll run our business. You know, in the meantime, I want to make sure he finds a good job and learns operational experience that I cannot give him. You know, I want to always, whether it be doing HR training, management training, or being the president of the companies that we're going to own, I want to be there for the customer and for our employees, because if I'm not, then we won't be successful, and neither will I.
And that's another thing you're looking at, which you just alluded to, is investing in other opportunities. The opportunities haven't just stopped because your plate is full now. You're always looking at other viable, workable opportunities, right?
I'm always looking, and I think when you stop looking and stop wanting to grow, then you're done. And I'm not done. I am so far from being done with my career that I want to be able to make sure other people are successful, whether it be with my company or me going in and helping other employers out with training. I want to make them successful. It's never been about me. It's been about what I can do for others.
So you have this successful company, Anderson Forrester, and people can go to the website andersenforrester.com to learn more. And then, of course, you individually, you can do speaking engagements, you can do consulting, further coaching. You're available as well to go out there and help other companies too, right?
That's correct. I still continue to do the HR consulting. I love it. I never want to get out of it. I never want to stop learning. I don't ever want to be saying, I'm too busy. I get about 2-3 hours sleep a night, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, because
Absolutely.
my mind is always going, what can I do to help somebody else out?
What I think is great about what you do, Michele, is you really understand that HR, human resources, has the word human in it. That's one of the biggest things about that phrase, human resources. Some people forget that. That is that human component, which is what it's all about, right?
It is. You can automate all the equipment you want, but you still have to have a human to be able to run it. And once we forget about why we're in business, it's our employees are the reason we're in business. Andersen and Forrester would not be successful today without our employees. They are why we're there.
So do you think you're going to write that book that everybody keeps telling you should write?
You know,
this rich life you've lived?
One day I would definitely love to write that book because I've had a very exciting and wonderful life. And it's, you know, there's parts of it we haven't even touched on that,
We'll have to come back with the book.
Definitely.
Michele, thank you so much for joining us. This is a real honor and pleasure. I think we've learned a lot on this segment, this interview, and thanks for sharing your story with us. It's really inspirational and empowering.
Thank you so much for having me here. I've enjoyed talking about our business, and you know, if there's one thing people can get out of this is I am available to help them out from an HR perspective, a management leadership, but also you won't get a better orifice and a part than from Andersen and Forrester.
Absolutely. Continued success, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again with more updates.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to learn more about the incredible life of Michele Nordahl and possibly have her come into your company to do consulting or coaching, things of that nature, she is available, also speaking engagements. You can also learn more about Andersen Forrester by going to the website, andersenforrester.com. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jim Masters, CU TV News.